It all started as an ordinary day, but what I learned in the evening changed the way I look at the people close to me. What happened at the end completely changed my life forever. 12 years. That number haunted me the moment Sarah stood in our living room, arms folded, voice steady, and told me, I want to try living separately, just to see how it is. I asked if there was someone else. She smiled, soft, almost pitying, and said, No, of course, I just need space. A week later, she was gone. No fights, no begging, just her boxes by the door, a new address left on the fridge, and an emptiness in our home that pressed in like fog. I kept thinking it was temporary. I left her side of the bed untouched. I saved her a spot at dinner. When the kids asked about her, I lied, said she needed time. She texted now and then, checking in like a coworker, asked if the plants were okay, if the kids liked their new shoes, but she never asked to see them. I should have known then. 2 years passed before I found it. I wasn't looking, just digging through an old drawer for our daughter's tablet charger. The screen blinked on like it had been waiting, and there it was, an open chat with someone named Rick. Dozens of messages, flirting, emojis, talk of weekends, missing you already, and I dreamt of you again. And then the line that stopped my heart cold. A little more, and I'm all yours. She had already left long before she packed a single box. I sat there in silence, staring at the screen, scrolling back through months of their history. It didn't even hurt at first. My brain went blank, like I was watching someone else's life crumble. Then came the slow burn, the rising heat in my chest that made it hard to breathe. And I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't scream. I closed the tablet, stood up, and stared at the family photos still stuck to the fridge with magnets. There we were, smiling like idiots in a zoo selfie. Me, the kids, and her in sunglasses. It all looked so real, and it was all a lie. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay there listening to the wind outside, replaying every lie she'd told. Every "I just need time," every "it's not you," every damn smile she used to soften the truth. But she wasn't confused. She was calculating. What she wanted wasn't space. It was a clean switch, a handoff from one man to another, without owning a single consequence. So I changed. First the surface. I hit the gym, bought new clothes, cut my hair. But more importantly, I changed inside. I stopped hoping. I stopped waiting. I started building something colder, something stronger. I saved the chat logs, backed up every message, screenshot, and receipt. I dug into her linked accounts, saw the money she'd sent him. It started small, then grew. Hundreds, then thousands. She was bankrolling their fantasy while I played single parent back home. And then I found the audio. A message she left her friend, laughing, saying she didn't care how I was processing things, that she was already gone. That line didn't even sting. It hardened me. She didn't leave because she was lost. She left because she didn't think I'd fight back. She was wrong. I hired a lawyer, quietly. I had bought the house before we got married, still had the paperwork in a file box buried in the closet. We moved it to my name through legal channels. Then I emptied our joint account, every penny. I used the records to show how she'd been supporting another man while abandoning her kids. And while she lived her second life, I built my case. Photos, call logs, text history. I didn't make a scene. I just collected everything, calmly and precisely. Next came the kids. I kept track of every missed call, every ignored birthday, every week she didn't visit or ask. I never poisoned their thoughts. I didn't need to. They saw who was there and who wasn't. I filed for full custody, citing abandonment and lack of involvement. It was clean, quiet, cold, just like the way she left. 3 months later, she came back. No call, no warning, just the sound of a key in the lock, like she still had the right. She walked in with her suitcase like nothing had changed. But Jessie, my girlfriend, opened the door. Sarah froze. I stepped out from the kitchen, calm and centered. She tried to speak, but her words cracked. Anger rose fast in her voice. She shouted that it wasn't fair, that I should have waited. I handed her an envelope. Court date. 1 week. Everything already filed. Already in motion. She opened it. Eyes scanning, hands shaking. That was the moment it hit her. This wasn't a pause. This was the end. And it wasn't accidental. It was by design. The week between handing Sarah that envelope and walking into court felt like holding a knife by the blade. Controlled, sharp, and dangerous if I slipped. She called a few times, left voicemails swinging between rage and desperation. First, she screamed about betrayal. Then she begged to see the kids. I didn't answer. Every word she left, I saved. Not for revenge, for record, for clarity. She showed up at the hearing with her hair tied neatly back and that fake, fragile smile she used when trying to look harmless. I didn't return it. My lawyer went first. Documents, dates, records, the chat logs with Rick, the bank transfers, screenshots of her booking hotel rooms while texting me she needed quiet space, and the audio recording of her saying she didn't care how I was getting through this, that she was already gone. When it was her turn, she stumbled through some speech about stress and not knowing what she was doing. She said she didn't mean to hurt the kids. The judge didn't flinch. He just leaned forward and asked, "Did you leave your children to live with another man without notice or agreement?" She went silent. That was enough. The decision was fast. I got full custody, no alimony, no property split. She walked out looking like someone had yanked the floor out from under her. I didn't speak to her. I didn't need to. I had already said everything that mattered without opening my mouth. She didn't go down quietly, though. Within days, she was reaching out to old friends, trying to rebuild a story where she was the one left behind, where I had turned cold. But people already knew. And worse for her, no one wanted to pick sides. So they picked silence. Then I found the receipts. Her company credit card had been used for 2 of her trips with Rick. Hotels, expensive dinners, a couple spa package. I didn't make a scene. I just mailed the details to her HR anonymously. She was fired within a week. No big statement, just policy. She called twice. The second time, she left a voicemail so full of rage it cut itself off when her voice cracked. I saved that one too. One day she showed up outside the kids' school, leaning against her car, waiting. Her court order didn't allow that yet. I walked past her like she wasn't there. She called my name, soft at first, then louder, more frantic. She said she just wanted to talk. I didn't even glance her way. The kids were safe inside, and she had no idea how far from them she really was. She started calling at night, blocked numbers, then emails, long, desperate messages about how she'd made a mistake. Said Rick wasn't who she thought. Said she didn't feel understood or safe with him like she did with me. It was almost sad how fast her tone had changed from superiority to regret. But I didn't respond. I just forwarded the emails to a folder. Evidence in case she tried anything stupid. Jesse asked if I wanted to cut her off completely. I said no. Let her speak. Let her show her true colors in writing. Because I knew it wasn't over. Not with Sarah. She'd always been good at rewriting history to fit the moment. But this time, I wasn't giving her a pen. She left a box on our porch a few days later. My old hoodie, some photo albums, a letter written by hand. She talked about rebuilding slowly, how the time apart made her see things clearly. But it wasn't about clarity. It was about desperation. Rick was gone, probably months ago. He'd gotten what he wanted and walked away. She was left alone with the wreckage and thought she could crawl back like nothing had changed. But everything had changed, especially the kids. They still asked about her sometimes, but less than before. My daughter once asked if her mom still loved them. I told her, she does. She just got really lost. I wouldn't lie, but I wouldn't make them carry her choices either. Jessie helped hold things together. She didn't try to replace Sarah, just quietly filled the spaces where love belonged. The kids liked her, trusted her, and the house finally felt warm again, steady, like the ground wouldn't disappear from under our feet anymore. Then one night, I saw Sarah parked across the street, engine off, just sitting there in the dark. She didn't get out, didn't flash the lights, just stared at the house like she couldn't decide whether to walk up or drive away. I didn't do either for her. I closed the blinds. 10 minutes later, she was gone. She had nothing left. No rights, no leverage, no audience. But I knew her well enough to understand she wasn't finished. People like her never walk away empty-handed. They circle, wait for weakness, wait for cracks. And I'd spent too long sealing mine shut. Less than 2 weeks after court, Sarah tried a new approach. This time it was calculated. A single message to my work email. Can we talk? Just the two of us. No drama, no pleading, just cold, cautious phrasing. She wanted to appear reasonable, like we were just two people sorting through something delicate. But I wasn't interested. I wasn't confused. This was just another move, another mask, and I wasn't stepping back into her playbook. I didn't reply. I archived the message like the rest. She wasn't grieving a mistake. She was searching for an opening. Her anger hadn't worked. Her panic didn't change anything. So now she was trying diplomacy. But I had buried that last hope for reconciliation the night I found her messages to Rick. Then she showed up at my office. I was walking back from lunch when I saw her on the bench out front, looking out of place and uncomfortable. She stood fast, brushing her hair back like nothing had happened. She asked for 5 minutes, said she just wanted to talk. Her voice shook, like she knew even asking was too much. I looked her in the eye, and all I saw was what was left. She was thinner, tired. Makeup couldn't hide how hollow she looked. The kind of tired that doesn't come from stress. It comes from failing at the life you gambled everything for. I told her, calm as ever, that's up to the court now. Then I walked past her and didn't stop. The messages kept coming, fewer but heavier. She said things like, tell the kids I love them, and I understand if you hate me. Guilt dressed as acceptance. She wasn't reaching for connection anymore. She was reaching for sympathy, trying to paint herself as the one left behind. Jesse could sense when another message landed, even if I didn't mention it. I'd get quiet, distracted, but she never pushed. She just stayed steady, grounded, helping the kids with homework, filling the house with normalcy. She didn't compete with Sarah. She just showed up in the spaces Sarah left behind. The kids, they were adjusting. They asked about their mom less often, and when they did, there wasn't sadness in their voices, just curiosity. I kept it honest but simple. She loves you. She just made some bad choices. I wasn't about to poison them with my anger. They didn't need to carry that weight. Still, Sarah didn't stop. One day I got a call from the school. She had shown up again, brought a box of toys and snacks, trying to leave them at the front office. They were confused. I wasn't. I emailed over the custody ruling, told them not to accept anything without formal approval. They understood. That night, she sent another long email. She talked about how she missed bedtime routines, remembered the kids' stuffed animals, even mentioned how the house used to smell on Sundays. She was trying to use nostalgia like a key, but that door didn't exist anymore. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was just trying not to feel erased. The next day, my mom called. Sarah had reached out to her too, told her she still loved me, missed her family. My mom said, she sounds lost, but that's not your problem anymore. And she was right. I had carried Sarah's chaos for too long. I wasn't doing it again. Then came the twist. Jesse got a message from one of Sarah's old friends, someone who hadn't spoken to us in years. The message ended with, maybe it's time he gives Sarah a second chance. Don't the kids deserve that? Jesse showed me the message later. She didn't even flinch, just said, she's trying to get to you through me now. And she was dead on. Sarah couldn't reach me directly, so now she was circling through others, hoping someone would nudge the door open from the inside. That night I didn't sleep much, not because I was worried, but because I was certain. Sarah wasn't done, not with the silence, not with the rejection. She was too used to control, too used to always having a backup plan. And the look she had that day at my office, that wasn't surrender. That was a storm waiting for a weak point. Whatever came next, she was going to make it loud, and I needed to be ready for that. It didn't take long for her to make another move. I was expecting it. Sarah had always been the kind of person who hated being left without control, and now that the courts had stripped her of any real power, she started circling again, testing boundaries. One morning, just as I was packing lunches for the kids, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the window and there she was, standing on the porch with a small bag in hand. smiling like she had every right to be there. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, blocking her view of the kids. She started talking fast, said she just wanted to drop off some of the kids' old stuff, books, a few sweaters she found. She said it casually, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't walked away from all of it. I didn't take the bag. I reminded her of the custody order and told her not to come back to the house without going through court. The smile dropped from her face in a blink. She didn't say another word, just turned around and drove off. The next day, I started seeing comments on our social media, under photos of the kids, under birthday posts. Some were just emojis, others were veiled jabs like, "The truth always comes out," or "Sad how fake things can look perfect." It was either her or someone she sent. I blocked every account, took screenshots, and moved on. She was desperate to prove she still mattered. Then came the legal move. I got served. Sarah had filed for visitation, claimed she was stable again, had started therapy, gotten a job, and wanted to be in her children's lives. Her lawyer framed it like she'd gone through a personal crisis and was now ready to heal. I expected it. I'd already prepared my lawyer with everything: messages, emails, her school incident, even notes from the school staff. In court, Sarah said all the right things, talked about reflection, growth, how much she missed her children. She painted herself as a mother who made one mistake and had been punished enough. She even teared up when she said their names. But it all felt rehearsed, and I knew the truth too well to fall for the act. My lawyer laid out the timeline: her disappearance, her visits without notice, the harassment, the attempt to manipulate Jesse in the school. The judge didn't make a decision that day, just said he needed more time. But even from across the courtroom, I saw it in Sarah's eyes. She knew it wasn't going the way she planned. Then things turned darker. Jesse found a note stuck under her windshield one evening. No envelope, just a smudged piece of paper that read, "Be careful raising someone else's kids. You never know what they'll grow into." It wasn't a threat, not exactly, but it wasn't innocent either. Jesse stayed calm, but I knew it hit her. Sarah was trying to shake the people closest to me, hoping something would crack. I installed cameras, changed locks again, informed the school. Everything tightened, everything watched. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. Sarah wasn't just trying to insert herself back into the kids' lives anymore. She was trying to dismantle what we'd rebuilt. The last straw came a few days later. She messaged my daughter through a fake account, pretending to be someone from her old daycare. Asked if she missed her mommy. Luckily, I had controls in place and saw the message before it reached them. I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer immediately. Another violation, another thread in the net tightening around her. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I wasn't even trying to fight her anymore. I was building a wall, one she couldn't climb, couldn't poke through, one that kept her out for good. Then everything went quiet. No texts, no messages, no emails, no unexpected visits, not even a whisper on social media. But I knew her silence never meant surrender. It meant she was preparing something worse. The silence didn't last long. Sarah's version of quiet was always the kind that hides something sharp underneath. I kept checking over my shoulder, not out of fear, but calculation. I didn't believe for a second that she was giving up. People like her don't disappear. They wait, watch, and then strike when they think you've stopped looking. 2 weeks after the court hearing, I got an email from Child Protective Services. An anonymous report had been filed claiming that my home was emotionally unstable and that Jesse was hostile toward the children. It read like it had been written by someone trying to sound professional, but leaking bitterness through every line. I knew instantly who had filed it. The agent assigned to our case was polite but firm. He had to follow protocol. A home visit was scheduled. I didn't panic. I welcomed it. The house was clean, steady, warm. The kids were thriving. Good grades, no behavioral issues, happy routines. Jessie kept her cool too. She sat with the kids, helped them with homework while the agent walked through each room and asked his careful questions. When he left, he shook my hand and said, "This doesn't feel like what I read in the report." I nodded. He said they'd still do follow-ups, but from what he saw, there were no concerns. Another attempt, another failure. That night, Jessie asked me, How far do you think she's willing to go? I didn't answer right away. I think we both knew the truth already. There was no line Sarah wouldn't cross if she thought it might force the world back into the shape she needed. 3 days later, my son came home from school unusually quiet. I asked him what happened, and he said a woman came to the fence during recess. Said she just wanted to see how he looked. She didn't call his name, didn't try to approach him, just watched, then walked off. He thought it might have been his mom. I called the school immediately. They reviewed the cameras and confirmed someone had parked a block away and lingered near the playground fence before leaving. They never entered school grounds, but it was enough to trigger a security review. I filed a report, sent it straight to my lawyer. We tightened everything again: school pickups, communication protocols, even added a formal no-contact request to the existing order. The judge approved it within hours. Sarah was unraveling, but in the most dangerous way: quiet, careful, just on the edge of legality. She wanted to look like a mother trying, while casting shadows she could deny. I saw a photo of her online, posted by a mutual friend. She looked thinner, her face sharper, like she'd been burning through stress without sleep. There was no trace of the woman who used to light up rooms, just a cold flicker behind the eyes, a forced smile. Then the next blow landed. My HR manager called me into a meeting. Someone had sent an anonymous complaint to corporate, accusing me of harassment, false, absurd, and built on vague references with no details. The moment I sat down, I saw it in their eyes. They didn't believe it, but they had to look into it. Company policy. I kept calm, answered every question, provided access to work emails, phone records, everything clean. I knew it wasn't about getting me fired. Sarah wasn't thinking that far ahead. She just wanted to shake the ground under my feet, to remind me she still existed. But all it did was make me sharper. I documented everything. I added her CPS stunt, the school incident, the workplace complaint, stacked it all into a single heavy file, sent it to the judge presiding over her visitation claim. Let the evidence do the talking. A few days later, Jessie walked into the kitchen holding her phone, looking pale. She called me, she said quietly. Block number. I answered by instinct. Sarah didn't threaten her, didn't scream. She just said, I know you think you've won, but this isn't over. Then hung up. That was the last straw for Jessie. She wasn't scared, but she was done playing defense. She told me flat out, I'll stand beside you through all of this, but I won't pretend this is normal anymore. And she was right. We weren't living, we were waiting. For Sarah's next shot, for her next desperate reach. I was sick of it, but I couldn't stop yet. The judge scheduled a new hearing, this time to evaluate whether Sarah's actions violated the previous court rulings enough to restrict all contact going forward. I was ready, my lawyer was ready, and Sarah, she didn't show up. Her attorney came alone, said she was under the weather. But we all knew better. She was slipping, losing the script. The court didn't make a ruling that day, but they scheduled another review, closer than normal. That meant the judge was paying attention. That night, Jessie curled up next to me, finally letting herself exhale. She's losing control, she whispered. I nodded, but I didn't feel relief, just more focus. Sarah's absence didn't feel like retreat. It felt like planning. And the more desperate she became, the less predictable she'd be. It had been 3 weeks since Sarah skipped her court appearance, but the quiet after that wasn't peaceful. It was tight and unnatural, like the last second before a storm hits. I knew she hadn't given up. She never gave up. She recalculated. She regrouped. The silence was just her loading the next strike. Jessie and I stayed on edge. The kids could feel it too, though we did our best to keep things steady. Mornings were normal: breakfast, backpacks, a quick race to the car. But behind every routine was this tension, like we were waiting for something to snap. And it finally did. I came home from work one afternoon to find Jessie sitting on the couch with a folded piece of paper in her lap. She didn't say anything, just handed it to me. It was a letter, mailed, no return address. Inside was a photocopy of a check Sarah had written to Rick, dated 3 years ago. The memo line read, "For everything." Jessie said it came that morning. No note, no explanation, just that single page. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it surprised me, but because I couldn't figure out the angle. Sarah was sending me proof of her own betrayal. Why? Was it guilt? Some twisted attempt at honesty? Or was she trying to provoke something? I scanned the document. It looked real. And then it hit me. She wanted me to use it. She wanted me to drag it into court, show it to the judge, prove again what kind of person she was. Not to lose, but to bait a reaction. If I used it, she'd claim I was harassing her, that I was obsessed with punishing her. It was the kind of trap you don't see coming until you're already knee-deep in it. I didn't take the bait. I passed it to my lawyer, quietly added it to the file, and said nothing to Sarah. No reply, no message, just silence. Again. A few days later, I got a call from the school. My daughter had started crying during a group activity. When the counselor asked her why, she said she didn't want her other mom to come take her away. That phrase stopped me cold. Not mom. Other mom. It was something Sarah must have said in passing, or maybe planted during one of her unsupervised encounters when she slipped through the cracks. Jessie sat with me that night in the kitchen while the kids slept upstairs. Neither of us said much at first, then she asked, "Do you think she'd try to take them?" I said no, but I didn't believe it. Sarah didn't want custody, she wanted chaos, and if she couldn't have control, she'd try to leave scars. The next court review came faster than expected. My lawyer walked in with a thick folder of documentation. Every stunt, every violation, every silent threat. Sarah showed up this time. She looked worn out, older somehow, like the weight of everything she'd started was finally dragging behind her. But her expression was the same, calculated, defiant. She said she only wanted to rebuild a relationship with her children, that the last few months had been difficult, but she was in therapy and working. She said she regretted everything, but she spoke like a politician, careful, rehearsed, emotionally disconnected from the damage. Then my lawyer brought out the note Jessie received, the school report, the anonymous CPS tip, the workplace complaint. All of it lined up in a perfect pattern of erosion, a map of how Sarah had tried to chip away at us from the shadows. When the judge asked her directly if she had contacted the children without court approval, she said no, flatly, unblinking, even though we had proof she had. When he asked about the workplace accusation, she said she couldn't control what people decided to do. The judge didn't issue a final decision, but he did say this: if there are further attempts to circumvent court orders, we will move to restrict all future contact, permanently. Sarah didn't flinch. She just nodded, calm, cold, like she hadn't just been warned that she was one step from losing every last shred of access. After the hearing, she approached me in the hallway. No lawyer, no witnesses, just her and that look, part sadness, part venom. She said, "You think this makes you a hero?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking. She stood there alone as the elevator doors shut. That weekend, Jessie and I took the kids to a fair. Rides, cotton candy, the kind of night that made everything feel like it might be okay again. But even then, I kept glancing over my shoulder. I couldn't help it. Not because I thought she'd show up, but because I knew what she'd lost. And people like Sarah don't just walk away empty. And then, late Sunday night, she called. Block number again. I picked up. She didn't say hello. She just whispered, "I made a mistake. I still love you." I said nothing. I waited. Her voice cracked like she'd been crying, but I knew the difference between regret and manipulation. And this wasn't new grief. It was an old script. Finally, I said, "It doesn't matter anymore." Then I hung up. Jessie came downstairs a few minutes later, saw my face, and didn't need to ask. She just sat beside me, leaned against my shoulder, and exhaled. Sarah wasn't done. Not yet. But her voice had finally started to sound small. The last time I saw her, she was standing outside the courthouse, clutching a piece of cardboard like it held the power to fix everything she'd broken. It read, "He took my kids." The handwriting was rushed, the corners bent. She looked thinner, pale under the morning light, like the anger had drained her and left nothing in its place. People walked past her, barely glancing. No one stopped. No one cared. I didn't stop either. She saw me. Our eyes met as I passed. Her mouth opened slightly like she wanted to say something, but the words didn't come. There was no drama, no shouting, just silence. The kind that settles after the war's already over. Inside, the courtroom was nearly empty. The judge flipped through our case file without much comment. It had grown thick over the last year. Pages of reports, messages, audio recordings, all of it stacked neatly like bricks in a wall she'd built herself. He didn't need long, just a few words. All visitation denied. No further contact without express court approval. Permanent restriction likely. Sarah never came in. She made her statement outside, hoping the world would take her side. But the world had stopped listening a long time ago. Back at home, Jessie was with the kids, baking something that smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. I stood in the hallway for a while, just listening, and for once there was no tension beneath the quiet. Just peace, earned. Still, there were pieces left to clean up. Sarah's employer had already let her go. After the anonymous documentation of her misused work funds made its way to HR, they dropped her fast. Not because of some vendetta, just because facts don't lie. She tried to apply at another office a few towns over, but no one bid. She wasn't blacklisted. She was just exposed. Even her friends, the ones who had stood by her in the beginning, slowly disappeared. A few messaged me privately, said they didn't realize how deep it went. Some apologized, others stayed silent. It didn't matter anymore. Rick was long gone. I never learned why. Maybe she got tired of pretending he was enough. Maybe he bailed when he saw how heavy real life was. It didn't surprise me either way. He was never going to stick around. He wasn't built for consequence. Jessie and I filed for marriage a few months later. Quietly. No big ceremony, no announcements. Just a steady decision between two people who had already been through fire. We weren't starting over. We were continuing something honest. The kids started calling her mom on their own. It happened naturally. Then came the last twist. A letter from her new lawyer. Sarah was appealing the original custody ruling, claiming emotional manipulation and legal bias. The motion was flimsy, thrown together like a Hail Mary pass at the buzzer. It didn't get far. The court dismissed it before we even got a date. That was the last legal noise she made. After that, nothing. No texts, no calls, not even her usual anonymous games. It was like she finally realized the game was over. Years passed. I'd sometimes catch myself standing in the hallway late at night, just outside the kids' rooms, listening to them breathe. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't angry. I was just grateful. I'd come close to losing everything, not to tragedy, but to someone who treated love like a switch she could flip on and off. I thought there would be a moment where I'd feel victorious, but there wasn't. Just small, quiet mornings, clean kitchens, honest conversations, a house that didn't echo with resentment. She got the freedom she chased, but not the return ticket. She didn't get to rewrite what she ruined. She stood on a sidewalk holding a sign no one believed, watching the life she abandoned move forward without her. And I didn't gloat, didn't scream. I just walked, with Jessie, with my kids, with everything she tried to break still standing right behind me. She lost, not because I destroyed her, but because she thought I never would fight back. And I did. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.